Yeah, setup is what kills most shops.
Every time.
Who is your programmer? What is their mentality? What is their mindset? It changes everything.
Yep.
One person.
You hang a boring bar out a difference of 1.5 inches, and that can change your entire program.
Everything.
It changed everything.
My mind was like, this is the problem that needs to be solved, and nobody's talking about it. You know what's crazy is that every time I go to one of these monster plants, and probably by the time this comes out, or maybe a little bit after, people are going to see where I just was.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man. Mm-hmm. And like automation is off the charts when it comes to the machines and how big they are and how they like just the work holding and everything off the charts. Incredible. But guess what? It's exactly what we teach on our videos. Yeah. It's just on a different level. It's the same mentality, the same kind of mindset, and the, figuring out how to actually hold these difficult to hold parts. Basically, if you watch our videos, you're basically teaching the exact same thing. And I love that, you know?
Similar parts too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when you look at this trade, I mean, it's like, if you figure out the correct way to do anything, especially like work holding and like building fixtures and stuff, then it's just everything's scalable. So when you're a $1 million, when you're in the garage, or you're a $1 million company, or a $10 million company, or $100 million, or a $1 billion company, you're basically using the exact same knowledge and like work holding techniques and purchasing all the same stuff. It's just on a different scale.
Yeah, well, it's the mindset. I think you had mentioned that maybe in your last talk, this mindset. And you can take that mindset from a $100,000 company, even a $10,000 company where you're in your garage, that idea of being efficient with what you have, using what's in front of you to the best of its capacities, and you can just continue to rise level after level.
Oh, yeah, because it don't matter if you're a $1 billion company, if you're hemorrhaging money because you don't have the processes in place to efficiently take on projects, then that's exactly what you're going to be doing, hemorrhaging money.
Yep. And standardizing things is so important with that in mind. I mean, I think about a place where me and you both worked before, and we looked at our tooling, and we were stocking like 30 different half-inch end mills, and it's like, why are we keeping these on hand? Like, we could probably get away with just 4. And we did that, and we ended up saving like $70,000 a year.
Well, it simplifies just the whole process for everybody, right? You don't have people trying to figure out why there are 30 different end mills, why your setup sheets don't match the end mill that they put down, because it was one of 30.
That's right. Yep. It got to that spot because we really wasn't tracking it, and we were growing so fast. Like, we were adding programmers that wasn't there the year before, and now all of a sudden, every time a new programmer comes in, it's, well, I like this company, I like this company. So next thing you know, we had 13 different half-inch end mills. Yeah. And finally somebody looked at it like Barry and was like, hey, this is not good.
Yeah, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that I was up in York, PA last week on Thursday speaking. They had a great event up there. And but one of the things I was telling all the manufacturers is that one of the things that I think is great in a company is when you invest in the people and you invest in education and you do it in a way that excites people, So if I have 30 different end mills, then on a Saturday, I might say, hey, Jessie, Travis, Barry, the rest of the guys, how about we come in, I'll go buy a bunch of food, donuts, whatever, and let's just hang out for a couple hours and let's just take some cuts and actually just take the top 5 end mills and let's see what they can do. You know what I mean? And everybody likes testing tools, and just get after it and do different types of materials and just see which one lasts longer, which one you can push, and then through that entire process and whittling it all down, you can actually say, hey, for this material, this is the cutter, this is the surface foot and the chip load, and this and the depth of cut and all that. In aluminum, it's this, in whatever,
absolutely.
And you start standardizing these tools. And what happens too is you build culture because your employees are like, I love this. I'm watching the same tool and different tools run at different speeds and feeds for different types of parts, but basically doing the same thing. And I watch it day in and day out. And I always wonder, can it be faster than this? And it's like, all of a sudden, let's come in on a Saturday. Let's actually do it. And I think every single company should have test days like that.
Absolutely.
For different things and figure out what your standards are.
Absolutely. You want to move forward intelligently, right? And so much of that is having the right data, the right data to manage. You have to be able to, it wouldn't make any sense to come in and just get rid of end mills, not knowing whether or not you're getting rid of the best product. I think gathering that data is such a wise move.
Yep. And it's great too, because the people on the shop floor know that your decisions now are based on actual data, not just my opinion on this, this vendor.
And you'll have so many of those, your tool reps that come in, I see you're running that end mill. Well, mine will double your tool life. And
it's
mine
always
will double your tool life. Yeah. So it's good to have okay. We did that, or Barry actually did it at General Atomics. We had several different ones that we liked, and we set up the same exact program and said, let's see how long you last.
Yep.
And we've separated out the top 3 versus the ones that didn't even come close.
And it was funny because some of them we were paying like $250 for 1 1/2-inch end mill, and then it ended up being a $62 one that we ended up making our standard. So
super good, super good. I think that if you that's one way to actually take your programming to the highest level is isolate and figure out what are the best tools for each application and make them standards. One of the companies that I was surprised hadn't quite done that, but actually did it after visiting us was a pretty monster company, and that's Lockheed Martin.
I remember that day.
That was crazy. Awesome. We actually did they Googled how to actually machine Inconel 718 and came up with the video, the zombie mill, where we were just talking about, it running for 7 hours. And they were like, well, ours only runs for like less than 60 minutes or 60 minutes, and we're not going that fast. So there's no way that our MRR is up to speed. And a lot of these older machinists are just doing the same way they've done for 20, 30 years, and they're not increasing. So, hey, Kennametal, can you actually contact Titan and get us in there? And we'd love to see what he's doing different and stuff. And then Barry, we actually did a pretty cool.
It was a great test.
Yeah, they were pretty impressed, if I remember correctly.
Yes, I was too. I mean, they were talking about they were getting 1 pocket per end mill, and it was taking them, I think, an hour.
They had a specific. We can't show the part, but there's a specific part they were doing that had multiple pockets in it, and they were doing 1 per end mill, right?
Yep. And we ended up doing 4 pockets in the same amount of time with 1 tool. So
with one tool,
that was a super cool test. Yeah. And that's when you first told me about why you love the Harvey 3 Aero, I loved the fact that you got that opinion based on what had happened in the real world. Yeah. So, saying that, what was it, $100,000 you saved on just that one job because of that tool?
Crazy.
Yeah, I remember that. I think that was either my first week or second week here. And I started smiling, knowing that I'd made a good decision about being here, because I remember we walked up to the whiteboard and Titan walked up and he goes, this is what we're going to do. You put a drill in, and he's drawing it out, put a drill in, put this tool in, get the bottom out, then come in with that tool so it doesn't ruin the corners and stuff. I was like, oh, yeah, here we go.
It was great.
Bring it in, enough to step over, just helical right in that baby right there. Boom. Yeah. Drop down, then helical.
And that ended up in another cool video, too, where we took that one that was damaged, where I actually had all the flutes were chipped and broken, and then we were able to do, I think, 17 full slots through steel with it, just because I knew it would survive that. Yep.
Yeah, it was super good. Wow. I always tell people, when I was up there speaking, I said, who programs? And all these hands went up, and I said, not a single one of you are the same. Everyone programs based on their experience, their applications, based on who they've known, the type of machine that they're on, and everyone's different. And therefore, if one company had switched out each programmer on the same job, that cost would be different because every single person's different. So one of the biggest and most important things that you have to understand as a company who's producing a part that matters and you need to get time down is like, who is your programmer? What is their mentality? What is their mindset? And are they striving for just being obsessed to just keep perfecting the art? You know what I mean? And keep getting better, and an obsession for perfection.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
I love the way you say that the programmer is the one that dictates the pace of the shop, because that is
100%.
so true.
Yeah. And it's like, if you walk onto a floor and it's making $1 million worth of product, there will always be an alpha programmer. There'll always be one guy that started there at the beginning, or gained the respect from other people, or, you know, however he got there. But that person is the one that dictates it, and other people are kind of underneath that person if there's many different programmers. And if that person is amazing, the entire floor will be amazing, so long they have good documentation, they understand how to do standards, and they all kind of rise to that person's level. But if it's like a zoo, you know, and you have different people running different tools, I mean, the same tool in different ways, like you guys were talking about, and it's just all in disarray, then you're going to have major problems, you know. But you bring in the right person, that person will be able to look at everything, and by just adding certain standards, not just standards in tools, but in surface foot, chip load, depth of cut, all of it for each type of material and application, by adding these in and making it law for all programmers to do the exact same thing, or bring something that's better to make that the standard, then the entire company will rise, because the price to manufacture the parts will decrease, which gives you a better profit, which allows everybody to get paid, which the culture will get better. It changes everything. One person. And if your head programmer does it the same way and is not willing, then that person needs to be fired. And I'm sorry for anybody. I've literally gotten people fired over this. But you have a whole company that's staking everything on your decision making. And if you're not constantly striving to be better, if you're not a true leader, and you're not like bringing the heat as far as just making everything flow perfectly, then you should not be in that position.
So good. It's funny. It's like there's really this kind of balancing that, because you want to be consistent, you want to develop standards, you want everybody on the same page, but you also have to be able to step back, look at the situation, and be willing to innovate. Like you say, if somebody comes with a better solution, you have to be willing to look at that and perhaps give it a chance. You have to be willing to change at the same time.
And sometimes you don't want to just throw, if a job's running forever, you don't want to just stop the machine, let it blink, go put in the end mill right there. And that's why it's important to, after work or on a Saturday or something, throw like a little test party, you know, and be like, hey, we're going to actually take some monster cuts, we're going to murder some material, and we're going to see what these things can do. And if we can actually, you know, find something better, then we will actually go and change the original programs that are running on the machines and make that law, you know.
And usually it'll blow your mind too, the results. I mean, think about how many tests we've done, and it's like, holy cow, you know, we've been leaving hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table and didn't even know it.
Well, so many people don't track that data, right? They never get it, and they just have no idea.
Well, you can look at like drilling steel or stainless, and you still see people doing high-speed steel, or they'll go to a carbide end mill and they're still feeding at like 18 inches a minute. You know what I mean? And 2 inches a minute. You know, at 18 is probably fast. You know, and then they're just taking these small pecks and stuff, and they're drilling so many holes, and they're not thinking that you could actually go to one of the higher end drills that are designed to break the chips and designed for that specific material. Like Kennametal has some of these drills, like in steel. These things are running at like 100 to 200 inches per minute in steel. You know what I mean?
Or like us, 2,300 inches.
23. That's on the end mill, but on the drilling, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like boom, you know, it's just murdering it, you know?
I love new tooling, and I love innovations, and people, I think, a lot of times don't realize how much money those things can make you if you're open-minded and you bring in.
Well, that's where it
Absolutely.
starts, right? Being open-minded, because I'm living proof of what you was just talking about. Like, I'm not saying I was that alpha programmer you were talking about, but I was asked to do a process document for tight tolerance parts. So I had to write up, this is the procedure that we do, because a lot of the parts that I was getting was those tight tolerance parts, and they were generally coming out good, but we would handed it to same type stuff to another programmer and it might not, and it would be a completely different process. And so I was asked to create a document like that, said take your processes that you're doing and some of the other programmers that's working, and let's create this document so every programmer follows this. Like, if you're doing this tight tolerance hole, it has a 3,000th true position, this is how you do that hole, and stuff like that, you know. And that made it so much better once we had that document in place.
You can get a lot of different variants, and even from your programmers, even down to your setup guys. If you have a difference between your setup guys who do your tool hangouts and stuff like that, your fixturing and stuff like that. Yeah. I had to write up several process documents as well, just for setup techs and stuff, like on the lathes, and making sure that you hang a boring bar out a difference of 1.5 inches, and that can change your entire program.
Everything.
It changed everything. Now your program is no good, and now we'll go changing your program when it wasn't the program at all.
Yeah, it was how you set it up.
It was just a simple setup, you know. So you want to see that consistency all the way down, right? From basically your programming to your setup to even your operators. That consistency is key.
100%.
And it's not just good for the company, you know, it's good for every machinist on the floor. They know what to expect. They know what to do.
Exactly.
Right.
Like, everybody gets in that same rhythm and groove, and just, you know, you start making real money when that happens.
Yeah.
So I think that running tools is something that every shop, like figuring out your standards, figuring out like how to push them, getting to that sweet spot, standardizing it, then allowing all your programmers and machinists to actually run off the same standard, unless they have something better that is tested and proven and replaces the current standard. So I also think that when you get to that point, going to talking about ways that shops can improve, right? So advancing your programming techniques, your tool path techniques is everything, right? Your tools, your standard tools, and then looking at the different parts that are actually on your floor and taking certain machines and standardizing those machines. If you cut a lot of steel, then you cut a lot of stainless, you cut titanium and Inconel and aluminum, taking different machines and taking those applications and kind of standardizing them to certain machines. So this machine is where we do all the aluminum. We don't just, it's due right now and this one's open, so we're just going to put it over here where we mostly run steel over here. And then next week it'll be over there. And then the next week it's going to be over here. Actually figuring out, your scheduling so you can run most of your different like materials together. And then really focusing on taking your standard tools that, like an end mill. If your sweet end mill, your sweet spot for an end mill is a 3/4, that's where you're willing to spend that money. To go bigger, you don't quite have the horsepower. It could be a 1/2 inch, and you just feel like this is the size that we use the most. Standardizing the actual tool magazine or the carousel so that you actually have those end mills in place and you program off of those tool pockets so that you can start alleviating like all that setup, get rid of all that setup and stuff. Then running, like, put all the tools for stainless steel, drills and tools, and put all like parts together. When you can start doing those types of things, like you look at these aerospace companies, and we're talking about tube fittings, and we're talking about different types of parts where they're so similar. They might have a few different types of ports. They might have different, tube ends or whatever. And it's like, getting the boring bars, the drills, and the end mills. The end mills are so universal, and actually, figuring out pockets where these are all end mills, then I'm going to have boring and drilling and different things, and leaving them in there. And then just, Yeah,
Because-
that's a huge money savings.
Yeah, setup is what kills most shops
Every
and
time.
And a lot of management don't understand that. Like I've seen so many places where they'll give you 15 minutes for every setup, and it's like, well, no, this setup is going to take me 6 hours, and they'll come out
Or 2 days.
Yeah, or 2 days, or longer. And since they don't understand that, they have no trouble, telling people, hey, pull that job off that machine. We'll come back to it later, and set up this job.
Easy
here.
That's the
peasy, right?
worst.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, it took us days to get this dialed in and
dialed
everything
in,
perfect. And
Yeah.
and they're like, well, why? No setup should take longer than 15 minutes. And it's like, sorry, they do.
Yeah.
So anytime you can make it to where you have even one less tool that has to be assembled, it saves a tremendous amount of time and money when it's extrapolated across a
It
year.
does. Over tool and setup after setup after setup. You think about even on a lathe. I mean, if you're going from aluminum to stainless steel, you're going to be switching out all those inserts. You got different grades. You might have different, cutting edges and whatnot, and
Yep.
that stuff adds up.
Yeah,
Adds up.
and like you're saying, standardizing even your tool numbers and stuff is
Yep.
because right on top of all that setup, you'll have if you have a lot of programmers. Well, I've got this programmer he just brought me the next job, and he's using the same tools, but
Yeah.
guess what? They're all in different tool.
Yep.
Well, then you're either got to change them all, or I'll just change my numbers, and then you fat finger a number, and you end up crashing the machine.
Yeah, you
Yep,
forget
it happens, yep.
one H2 and it's
Yeah.
game over.
And that just takes time too, over and over doing that job
Yep.
after job.
Yeah, I think this is a good conversation because a lot of companies are looking for ways to save money and drop costs and do all that, and they're looking to automation. And 100% automation in the future of CNC machining is standard practice, and you're not going to bring the work back without truly getting it. But
Absolutely.
we're talking about all of it. So before automation, standardizing tools and standardizing, working off a tool library and doing these different things. Another one to really save money is fixturing and work holding.
Yep.
If you're looking and you're like, this is taking me way too long, and it's causing one person to stand there at the machine, and you have like 1, 2, or 3 vices, and you're running 1 part per vice or 2 parts per vice, and you're just opening the doors, closing the doors, opening the doors, closing the doors. You are literally like, you have to look at other ways to do it. And in our fixture series, which is amazing, we teach 4 different styles of unique fixturing with Mighty Bite clamps to actually hold raw material, then flip it over and actually grab a hold of the machine part and actually machine it. And we do it in a way that any one of them, you could have 1,000 parts lined up, pop in machine fans and stuff to get rid of the chips or whatever. And this is a way that you can actually, if you had parts that were 2 minutes or 1 minute a piece and you had a 6-minute runtime, you could actually make that into an hour and a half runtime by running so many different pieces and get inventive and bring the time in with a chip fan or something else or coolant to like get rid of the chips and all that. But it actually would save you so much time because a person does not have to sit there with that machine. They can actually be other places.
Somewhere else.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And there was a place that I worked at where I did a bunch of testing, and one thing I did was time how long it took to set up 30 tools, and then just said, okay, on average, it's going to take us 2 minutes to set up a tool. Set up a vise 15 times and indicated it in and said, okay, 10 minutes to put 10 minutes to put a vise on the table and get it straight. We did the same thing with opening and closing the door, 30 seconds to go from taking the part out to putting the new part in and closing the door. So you think if you have 1,000 part run and you're doing 1 part at a time, that's 500 minutes that you're wasting just opening and closing the door.
Yeah.
And when you lay it out like that, sometimes you just got to put it out, right? Put it on paper and
Yep.
put it in. It can be mind-blowing
Oh,
sometimes
yeah.
the amount of time put into
You've
just
got a
worthless
perception.
activities.
Yeah, you've got your perception of how it is. But
I'm killing it.
Yeah, but
exactly.
when you put it on paper, it's not how it looks.
Especially, like when you're like us and you're creating kind of a race against yourself, you're like, I can get in there and, take the part out, put a new one in, and it's only going to be 7 seconds. But
I know that feeling.
Yeah. We do it all the time, right? So, actually seeing on paper how much time is being wasted during a process. Like if you put a robot into a situation like that, it's putting lipstick on a pig. You got to get the pig straight before, you start adding in automation.
Yeah. Perfect the process, get everything absolutely dialed. And then when you're still in need, then step up to the automation and stuff. So fixturing, there's so many different crazy fixture plates that you can do. You can just look up Titans of CNC and look up fixturing, and work holding, and you'll see all these videos drop down with so many different cool techniques. I tell everybody, like we always show the fixturing and show the homemade fixtures because that's the art. That's what separates machinists. But it's like once these guys see it, they instantly know it and have an idea. And then once they see a similar part, they can be like, hey, on Titans of CNC on the YouTube channel, I actually saw them hold a part like this. What was that they were using? Oh, Uniforce clamps.
Exactly.
Oh, Pitbull clamps. Yep. And we don't get paid. We're not getting paid from Mighty Bite, to actually do it. But I've just loved the art of fixturing and being able to do a million different pieces and stuff. And then you take that same knowledge from a table, like a custom table setup, and you put it right onto your tombstone setups in a horizontal fourth axis or a bad boy like this right here with the RSP and the Heller. And then you do the same thing. You design these big tombstones to have a ton of parts. A lot of people look at these big machines and they think it has to be one part on it, but you could have a tombstone with a bunch of different parts and it just rotates and just cranks all of it,
Yep. Yeah. And there's like some of the things I really like are the modular systems like the Vero S.
Yeah.
Shunk makes all kinds of different Vero S module plates. So like if you have like a 4 Vero S unit, what I like is, you buy a plate, you mount your vise to that plate, and then you take your 10 minutes of setup time to get a vise in and straight down to 10 seconds. Yeah. So you have all your fixtures already mounted to these plates. You just pop the old one off, put the new one in, and you're within 2/10 of perfection. So
I've done it with both. I've done it where we have the vices and we have the pins coming out of the vices and we hook it. And depending on what you're running, it's a good system, but I don't think there's enough surface area. Like the modules for the Vero S, there's 2 of them, then there's a lot of empty space, So then what you said, that's actually what we've done mostly in the past is actually put the vices on a plate and take which has the surface area and then kind of like lock it. But it's still a little, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's not ever going to be as rigid.
But the more that you have that heaviness, denseness, rigidity, the better. I think the way that we did it, we actually had 2 vices hooked to it, so it was like a big piece. It wasn't one piece; it was a big piece. So with having 2 vices and the entire square of the plate coming down on 4 Vero S's, that made it rock solid.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Super good.
The repeatability is just amazing with that type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It is.
Just taking in and out. Number 1, it's already lined up, and 2 is if I need to take it out and need to put it back in.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
right there.
Yeah, and so many
small
shops,
adjustments.
So many shops are caught up on cost for things like that, and it's like say you have this $1,000 thing, and they're like, oh, that's too expensive. Well, how much is it costing you every time somebody has to put a vise in that machine across an entire year?
Probably more than you think.
Way more.
Yeah. And like it's art of taking setup out of a machine like the Vero. If you put the Vero S system on your table or a similar system, or just put a base plate, sub plate down, and you actually create another plate to go on, all of a sudden, by you taking all the setup out and making it so easy to reset up, you're decreasing the amount of money that you have to charge your customer. And that's a huge selling point. I would always sell that to the customers. Mm-hmm. Everybody else, they're taking this part. The part is 30 minutes, but it literally has 12 hours of setup, and they're going to keep setting it up and charging you for all of this time. We're going to do it one time, and then we're going to do it and actually make it so we just shelf it and we just lock it in, boom, and like even run off a tool list, you know, and we basically will never set up again. And so we'll just charge you for, instead of 12 hours, it'll be like a couple hours with inspection and the 30 minutes. And then, and then the price will be this instead of this. And that's how you dig your roots into these customers, and they never want to go anywhere else because they love you, because you're saving money, and you can explain exactly how you're saving them that money.
Yep. And it's funny because they can go out and get quotes from other vendors, and they're all going to come back at double the price that you're making them for.
Exactly.
And it's like, well, I guess we're going to stick with this guy forever.
Especially when you can make 2 plates and that one's in there
Oh, yeah. And you're
with the spindle running, and then you're out here changing parts on the next one, and then it's just boom, boom, go.
Yeah. And then when you make that fixture and you put it into your quote and you say, hey, I'm going to actually build two different fixtures. I'm going to actually, each one's going to hold 20 parts. My competition's going to actually open a door every 2 parts. I'm going to actually run 20 parts or 40 parts at a time. And then I'm going to actually put those over here. And the next time my setup will be super easy. I'll spend 15 minutes plus inspection time to reset up the machine. And that'll allow me to give you these parts at this price, and it means everything, you know. And then what we would do back in the day is I just say, hey, you know, it's going to cost me $3,000 to actually build these plates, and I'm going to keep them at the shop. And they would never even ask for them or anything, even though they're paying for them. And I'm like, this is a tool that we will use, and then your price will always be this. So this is the price. There's an NRE, a non-reoccurring estimate charge, and basically you pay us the $3,000 or $5,000 or whatever it is, and boom, we're dialed, you know. And then they can't go anywhere else. They're like, Titan has all the fixturing for this. We've invested in this. Like, we don't care about trying to find a better price right now. This is our partner, you know?
Well, it's such a good analogy to like what you mentioned, Barry. I mean, these big companies see that, right? You have this initial investment, and then you're saving money for the entirety of that work after that. It's the same way you can look at it as a machine shop owner, right? You have a upfront price, and then you save all that money over and over and over again.
Yeah. So before people even step up to automation, there's ways of bringing more efficiency into the way you set up, the way you program, the way you run your machines, you know, and then taking that to, you know, a regular 4th axis, like horizontal mill, you know, using it in creating fixtures and tombstones and stuff like that. But as I think right now, there's never been a time, like we always say, oh, the work needs to come back. We need to fight for these jobs and different things. But when you actually look at the current, you know, where the current supply chain for most companies is that actually outsource, everyone's in trouble. Everyone is like, everything's taking a long time. There's so much uncertainty with, you know, wars and China and all these different things that you have companies, and if they can't get their products, they can't make assemblies, or if they can't get their products, they just get the entire assembly from another country, then they can't sell anything, and that puts their entire company in jeopardy. So I think right now is the time that many companies right now need to like listen to these types of things, come up with ideas for the applications for your customers, and go in there with a solution that they've never heard before. Show them how you can decrease their prices, how you can actually have a better price than China. You know, I've done things in the past where I went in and I said, hey, I'm a small person, you're a big person. You actually, if you purchase my material and take care of the outside processing, I won't increase the price, because if I'm going to do it and it costs $2,000, I'm going to actually charge you an extra 15%, 20% on it, right? Because I'm having to incur that cost right there and all of it. But if you do it, then you can just pay for it, and then I'll decrease the amount that I charge you for the parts, and we'll create this crazy fixturing and way to do it, and you just create these partnerships, man.
Yep, and it's win-win. Both parties are happy.
It's a win-win. And right now is when everyone needs to think about it. Like, that's how, if you're a small shop and you want to grow in this bad environment, then you have to solve the right problems for customers.
Yep.
So think about who you're doing work
Exactly.
for, who you're not doing work for, but you want to do work for, and start hustling that and come up with a great game plan that where you save them money in a tangible way with an actual plan that can be consistent over a long term, because nobody's going to just quit giving work to China because you said so. You know what I mean? Come up with an actual like long-term plan and sell it. Sell it. Everyone wants to they want to bring the work back. They just don't know how.
Yeah.
And, you know, like it or not, the work is coming back thanks to the whole supply chain crisis. But it's up to us to figure out how to keep it here once it's
100%.
back. Because the supply chain crisis won't be there forever. And won't.
I think I don't think that's super accurate, not to call it, but a lot of it is coming out. But you know how much parts they make over there? You know what I mean? In other countries, and if you're in Australia, you know, it's like your work is in other countries too. If you're in the UK, you're buying your work from other countries. There's so much work that is not coming back. There, just because people here, they don't even. Like these companies, they want to bring it back, but they don't even know who could manufacture it. They don't even know who will actually answer the phone and actually have a good conversation with them. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I agree, but I also think that there's so much work. You know, I've talked to people in huge companies, you know, Parker Hannifin, where this guy usually I've said it before. He got on the phone with me. He's like, Titan, I have tens and tens of millions of dollars worth of product I want to bring back and actually source here. And no shop can actually handle it. I'd have to go to like 100 different shops to actually give them bits and pieces and manage all of that just to get it. And the amount of work I can't do it. I can't do it. You know what I mean? So I think that is awesome in a way, because if you have it in your being, your head, your heart, that you can actually rise up, even if you don't have the money. If you have perfected the art and you can sell yourself, you can actually show people how to bring that work back and explain exactly all the variables in place and how you're going to raise every single one. Maybe they just contract your company to build a bigger company to actually do exactly that. But right now, they need it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I don't mean like a lot of work's not coming back. A lot of work is coming back, but there is so much.
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
right.
It's the entire country of China is just growing everything. The biggest military, the biggest everything is growing because we're paying them to do so by doing our work that we've taken away from our people, you know? And it's like crazy.
Yeah, and then wondering why we have unemployment and all these other problems here in the States. It's because all that work is over there and not here.
Mm-hmm. And that's what I was going to add to what you said about that. Planting your roots in a company is because, you know, it's not even always about being the cheapest. You don't have to be the cheapest. It's true. You need to learn what is important to that customer you're
100%.
trying to get, because we had customers in the past that didn't really care about price, but their parts better be right. Mm-hmm. You know, it was more important to them that when they get something in that they've been waiting on, they go, they put it on the machine, they do what they need to do with it, and it works, and they move. Because if they're down 1 hour, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars. You know, it's got to be right. And they didn't care to spend a little extra money and come to us that they knew we were going to be more expensive than other people, but they knew when we made it, it was going to be right.
Yep. And, you know, I've talked to friends of mine who are buying their parts from China or other countries, and they tell me that they would have to buy 10 parts to get one good one. So if they needed 100 parts, they'd buy 1,000, and they knew that they were going to have to go through every single part and check them and throw 9 out of 10 away. But
this is a completely different industry, but the furniture industry, you know, Mississippi has a lot of furniture industry, and most of it has went to China and other countries, and that's exactly what they have to do. They've literally got lines in some of these factories that do nothing but when the furniture comes off the truck from these other countries, they almost have to disassemble the whole thing and fix whatever's wrong with it. They literally have lines that just do that.
Yep. So a little bit extra cost would definitely make it worth not having to go through that.
I think now that we've talked about, programming and tooling and fixturing and different things, looking at automation, when you actually bring these jobs back that have 10,000 pieces, 100,000 pieces, 100%, you got to look at automation, right? If it's not a tiny little piece that you can actually put on a, multi-spindle or, like a Swiss machine or something like that, then you got to look at automation. Here's something that I don't know if I've told you, but in 2007, I actually created a separate company called AIR.
Oh, I never heard of it.
Yep. American Industrial Robotics. You remember that?
No, I don't actually.
Okay.
I'm hearing this for the first time.
That's even before Travis. So we were making so much money with Subsea, and we had these contracts that were going out to 2017 with Schilling Robotics, and we're making all the titanium parts for all these ROVs and stuff. And I started getting into automation and stuff, and I bought a couple robots. I went down to LA and took a class with Fanuc, LR-Mate and stuff, and I started like looking at the robots and how everywhere at that time, everywhere I went, they were actually like on lathes. They were like putting the robots on a cage basically above the machine so that it was to get it out of the way of the operator to come down, or it was in a cage and it was smack dab in front of a machine, and basically the robot would like go in, but you had to, during fixturing and setup, you're having to maneuver around this robot. The robots were fixed. So at that time, I was like, how do you remove the robot and how do you make it like where you can actually move it from machine to machine? So what we did was we actually made a precision, basically pallet. And I still have all the drawings. I hired engineers and everything. And basically it actually had 4 legs that were on these pivots that were so precision that we could actually move them down and come back, and they would respond within tenths. It was so good. And basically maybe a thou. Like it was tight though. And basically it had a table, and then the table and these guys had pins coming through, and basically you pick this thing up with a forklift, like it's a metal pallet. It would lift up and you move it into another machine. It would go down, get set in pins, kind of like the Vero S, if that was in the floor, and it would lock down. And if the lathe was right here, it'd be to the left of the door. And then when you're done, it would actually rotate down, and the table would come in front of the machine, and the smaller weight, would actually do everything. And then whenever you wanted to, we had a beautiful controller. We had the American flag, and it said AIR, and it was like American Industrial Robotics. And it was just like something we were making so much money machining parts that I just was so fascinated with the emergence of robotics and all that. So at that time, I got so deep into it, and I was just like, I had crazy dreams. Like because you have to make the robots go from machine to machine to machine based on for job shops and stuff. Yep. And yeah, we made a prototype, and it worked perfectly, and it was awesome. And we made all the controllers. We did all the things. We had our supply chain, and it was like a really cool thing that we figured out. And then literally the world started collapsing and everything happened, and I sidetracked the whole thing and never went back to it. Wow. But you know what's crazy? Is that I always had that in my head, because when I look at these robots, and you look at like the typical robot, you'll see there's a robot and there'll be a cell, there'll be a couple machines, and the robot never moves. But it's you don't really see them in job shops. You know what I mean? And when I was at EMO, I came across a company, and Keith knew these guys, called Halter, and it's completely different than what I was thinking, and yet I was like almost before my time. You know what I mean? Because these guys have created a cage that basically it is the same thing. It gets moved and placed in front of different machines for a job. Like you could run hundreds of thousands of parts, or you can just run 100 parts or 60 parts and basically put this thing and do all the things that we said, to make everything flawless, and it'll just change out the parts. So it's like a robotic system in its own cage that basically, then you have these like plates that go in at basically all these different ways of holding different types of parts. They can go on mills and lathes and stuff. And I guess this is the first time saying that we're actually going to bring one into our facility, and we're going to actually set up some cool jobs,
Nice.
which I think is great, because I think that, that's one of the things that you have to think about that is so universal. How do you get a robot that you can actually just move around to different machines and use on different applications, do it quickly and efficiently, and actually like help you save, and it'll save you money and just make everything so easy. A lot of people have big dreams to do it, but it's difficult.
It is.
Everybody's like, oh, I'm going to get a robot. And then you walk in there on a Tuesday and it's just sitting, you know what I mean? For whatever reason.
Well, there are jobs. You have like integrators, right? Their whole job is to help make it work, because people get stuck, after buying the robot, how to actually implement the process.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is, like, now robots have become so much easier to program. And I've written probably 3,000 robot programs by hand with the Teach pendant. And this was 15 years ago. It was not that easy. Now it's just, little prompts. You follow the prompts through, and it does all the heavy lifting for you, literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's super good. So I'm super excited to get this in. We're going to actually put it on the SMX first, 2100. So Tyson's going to actually get to play with the robot first.
It's not fair.
Oh, man. But you got the big old pallet system.
True.
So one thing that I love is like, we teach everything from, hey, you're in a garage, we're going to teach you how to actually make the academy parts. We're going to teach you how to make your own parts and show you how to even start your own company. There's a million people now in garages that are like Titan built from YouTube videos and from our academy, and they love it. And I love when they all tell us these stories about how they started and stuff. And then they end up going out and renting a place and getting machines and doing these things. But I love that we teach on that level. Then we teach we have 200,000 students on our academy right now, and more than half are active machinists in the workplace that just want to learn CAM or learn 5-axis or learn, just to get better. And I love that. Yeah. But I love this new season that we're in too, where it's like, not only have we taught you all of this stuff with programming and, through 1,600 videos on YouTube, like we've taught on so many different levels, whether it's from pushing machines to complete applications and how to drill, how to mill, all these different types of materials and everything. But now it's like, now we're stepping in so hard into the automation to teach owners and leaders that it is possible, that you can do it. Like when you look at a phone, it's automated in China. So it's not about $2 an hour anymore. It's automated. So if they're using the same type of machines that we use, why can't we just do it here, but just be smart about it? So we've already been programming this bad boy and showing how to use this, this RSP right here. And the RSP, just teach it on this now, and we have the DN solutions that we just came in, and you were like super impressed, right?
Oh yeah.
That linear 12 pallet station is super impressive. Yeah. And that thing is almost fully set up, right? They have a couple things that they have to do, right? What do you think about that bad boy?
Yeah, that dude is so amazing. Like I was I don't want to say scared of it, but okay, what is this going to be? Because, a lot of people that get something like that, they've got all these things on the screen that make it look fancy. Like you can clearly tell it's more geared to like a computer nerd instead of somebody like us. But this one is really built with the person that's going to be running this in mind, or the manager that's going to be standing in front of it. It doesn't give you any fluff. You see what you need to see, and you do what you need to do on it. And that's what I love about it. It's so simple.
Super simple.
And what the power that it has in it that you can see. I could see months in advance if I have every pallet on there and I have a cycle time for each or whatever I have, I can see my entire schedule. I know based off how much time I'm going to have an operator here and how much time I want to run the machine. I can put that in there and know exactly if I'm going to be late on projects, because I can put a due date on things. I can see if I'm going to be late on anything. I can see if I tweak little things, if I'm going to be, now I'm going to be on time, or I can see how many I'm going to make per day. It's just so crazy for scheduling.
And that's super cool, because I've worked with several pallet systems before that were not intuitive like that. And they were like made my job harder, having to figure out how they worked and stuff. And it's cool too that we have both types of pallet system here. We have the rotary and then we have the linear. So, no matter what kind of pallet system you're getting into, you'll get to see how they work from us.
Yeah, 100%.
And that was something that I thought was funny when I first started here, is anytime I was like, hey, Titan, I'm thinking about doing a video on this, he would say, oh, well, here's one I did on that 7 years ago. And I think it's amazing the wealth of knowledge that our channel puts out there. So like you were saying, the garage shop can learn from us. The huge aerospace company can learn from us. Yeah. It's super cool.
One thing that I don't want to poke too hard, but there's a lot of influencers out there that, hey, pay me $20,000, I'm going to show up. And they will show up anywhere and showcase anything for $20,000. If you pay it, they're going to show up. Yep. I love the fact that not only do we do free education, but certs for free in our kids' hands and machinists' hands all over the world. And we're changing the industry and stuff. But I just love the fact that there's a why behind everything we do. There are companies lined up at that door wanting to give us money, and we do not accept it. There's so many people that we don't talk to, and it's like there is a reason why we do everything. And so when you have the halter, it is a perfect system for job shops, for companies. They have a lot of parts that they need to run nice and efficient. I can explain it's exactly what I always thought we needed. And now I found it, you know what I mean? When I was trying to design it so many years ago, and we have it, man. And I'm not taking credit from anything from them. I'm just saying, my mind was this is the problem that needs to be solved, and nobody's talking about it. You know what I mean? And I went so far on it and stuff. So now to see that somebody else actually created a legit system that is that easy to move around and attach to your machine and then move it, and it's so awesome, man. But it's when we come to, DN Solutions, I love that we can explain exactly Haas is a beginner machine, and I wouldn't be here without Haas, right? And spindles will break and things will happen, but the amount of money that you're dealing with is on a lower level. And when you start out, it's good. And if you just run four-wheel drive parts, or you run simple parts with open tolerance, it's a good machine, and it's great. You know what I mean? And I knew why we made a bunch of tutorials with that. But there's levels to the game. So as you start going up and run more complex materials and hit more tighter tolerances and do these different things, then you keep going up. So with DN Solutions, it was if I go up to a Makino or a DMG or these, everyone who watches us, they're basically just going to blindly spend the money because they trust me and the team. You know what I mean? So it's what is the best solution up, Yep. And that's DN Solutions, because it is not the same price. It's 20 to 30% less expensive. I kind of call it when you look at all the cars and stuff, it's kind of like the Lexus. It's a beautiful car, but it's affordable, for that. You're not paying the $150, you're paying the lower price. You know what I mean? And that matters when you quote. You're going to say something?
Yeah. Well, I was just going to say that when I was first interviewing here, I remember asking you, how come I always see the same couple end mills, the same couple drills in your videos? Do you not use anything else? And you said, I will only show our audience the things that I personally believe in, that I think is going to help their shops. And I would, if you had a different answer and just said, oh, these guys pay me, so, I'll just show whatever they ask me to, I wouldn't have came to work here.
Yeah.
So I was so impressed by your answers on a lot of those things that, like,
people was like, you don't think everyone's going to pay us? You don't think I could get
Right.
paid from every single person? We could just load up partners and load up all this stuff. They'll all pay, but why would you use? Why are you going to use street tires to go up country and go mudding? You know what I mean? Or something. It's like, if this tool is the best and it solved my problems, and I made the videos of actual making aerospace parts, and they ran for 7 hours when other ones only ran for like 90 minutes tops, and most broke at 20 minutes. And why am I going to go subpar? Especially with the Academy right now, you can actually, with our store, you can get the prices of these tools are like $50, $60.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So you get these incredible tools at a low discount, which is something that we wanted to do for the industry, so everybody had a shot at it and stuff. But it's like everything. There's a reason for everything. And that's why I can sit here next to these big old Hellers right here. So you talked about the DM. And it is a premium machine at an amazing price, and the quality is exceptional. The price is like that. That price is just, it's under all the other premium machines and stuff, and that matters. So I love that we have an automation system, 2 automation systems that can actually attach to that platform and make that and automate the whole thing. Now. Heller will not tell you that they're competing on that level. They're not trying to, because they're not a premium machine. Mm-hmm. They're a top level machine. They compete. They're so far above the DMG Moris and the other. If you would have all those machines at the big auto plants if they were the ones that just ran forever.
Or like Cheryl Marine, guys with DMG tattoos have
they're
nothing
buying
but
Heller and
Hellers.
stuff.
Yep.
Like Heller is just a monster. You'd have to go to find competition on that. There's barely any, and it would probably be a Grobe. But for what they do, they sit alone. They make a brilliant machine. And even when we were at Detroit Diesel, these machines are running for 20 years.
Yeah.
Like 20 years.
24 hours a
50
day.
machines, 24/7, and basically just a few people operating them, making 1 million diesel engines, just absolute monsters. But the price goes up, right? From DN, the price goes up. It's like, if you're a job shop, you're making all of these different parts and stuff, and you're a production facility, and depending on the type of parts and how long you're running and everything, DN is like brilliant for you. But if you are going up to the top level, you're like crazy aerospace, hard materials, run all the time, you're going to do these different things, and you're going big and you can afford it. Then you go to a Bugatti.
Yeah.
and the Bugatti is like the Heller, and this thing is a monster. But it's still, what's crazy? The guys from Cheryl Marine said this was actually less expensive than the DMG Moris actually, then you could get it quicker.
Yeah. They said it was a better machine for less money.
Yeah. So you're teaching automation now on all platforms, everything. And even when you go to the smaller machines and the garage machines, you can still figure out the custom fixturing, the programming techniques, the custom tools, everything.
Yeah.
Any advice? Like this was a great run just on things that people can do, like where they should start trying to save money. When it comes to programming and operating a machine and stuff. And we kind of went on the different levels.
I think really, for me, it's saving time wherever you can save time, wherever that means standardizing, whether it's your programming. Standardize your toolbox. I remember back in the day, like you work with what you have and where you're at. I remember we color coded the pens and the Sharpies, and you may think that's silly, but when you have to go around because you can't find a pen or a deburr knife or something like that, that is time wasted.
Exactly.
So anything
Travis went and got all the different colors.
It was like 14 colors of tape. That wasn't easy to find.
And it was great though, because if you're on a red machine, you should have all red tools, and it just made perfect sense.
Yeah, and it saved time. And every second you save, time after time after time again, just equals money in your pocket.
Exactly.
Oh, me being colorblind would have just triggered me.
I didn't think about it.
But when
They're all
when
gray.
you grab a tool and you're like, hey, this is purple, and then you're over here, like, you go take it back and put it back. You know.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. Anytime that you're having to look for something, that should not happen.
Exactly.
Everything should be where it belongs all the time.
With
And you could do that
few
in
steps as possible.
Yep, and you can do that whether you're in, a $10 million shop or a $100 garage. You can still do that.
Yeah.
And Travis, hanging from all the lights on our machines back in the day, what was hanging there that you could also hang around your neck?
Testing. It's stopwatch.
Stopwatches, baby.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
that's how serious we took it, man. I actually put stopwatches at every single control and hung it there and just made a game. It is literally a video game that you play every single day, and let's have some fun and let's see, let's just see.
I do remember when I first came seeing the stopwatches. Are we racing?
We're racing.
We
Let's
running?
go.
What's happening?
On your mark.
Yeah,
Get set.
This is the time your bathroom breaks.
That's kind of what I wanted to do, is reiterate that, is like, because there's going to be people that's watching this that's going to get fired up, like, oh, I want to fix the issues in my shop, but you're going to see 10,000 issues right off the bat, and you're going to get overwhelmed at where to start.
Mm-hmm.
So my advice would be to identify where your biggest problem is. Just start there.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be probably pretty glaring.
Runtime.
Yeah. What is my biggest issue that I'm having? And just start there. Just try to focus on that and get that. And then once you do, you're going to kind of learn a process and then just build from there.
For sure. Absolutely.
At our past job before, we had a huge problem with drilling a certain type of copper. And it was by far the biggest problem that we had. And among 10,000 other problems, but this one, when we broke a drill or something in copper, it was a very expensive part by that time. And so we took a programmer's like, dude, take this piece of scrap, go down there, develop us a process, let's implement it, and everybody do this. And just something like that. Start there.
Yep, and consider the complexity of the problem too, because if it's something that's going to take you, a year to fix, maybe you ought to start with something that's a little bit quicker. Look for some low hanging fruit, knock those out, and then come back to that long
snowball.
Yeah,
issue.
great thinking. Great thinking.
I think that 99% of all jobs that are running, you can bring the time down.
Oh yeah,
yeah, almost guaranteed.
Yep.
People that think that they can't, but it's like there's so many things that you're not thinking about, and there's so many variables at play. And I think that one of the key things that you have to do is look at the program, look at the setup, and even programming. You have to think about the rigidity of, what I mean? Sometimes, even the material, like, how much are you holding on to, 3/16? What if you went to a dovetail? You could actually pay less expense. Like, you have less material to machine off, and now you only have to have an 1/8. I mean, it all matters, right? So just looking at the part, looking at how it's held, looking at every single tool, making sure, like, you're looking at, like, for these drilled holes, am I using the most efficient tool? And man, that alone can just save you amount of time. And then you just keep looking at automating and fixturing and all that. And then when you're ready, you just keep jumping the levels, boom, boom, boom.
Step after step.
But I think another thing I just want to say right before is, again, supply chain is a problem. Companies have problems because they're not manufacturing their own parts, and they're taking all of these parts are being done overseas. So be the solution, find the company, come up with an amazing game plan, sell it to them. And that might be the start of you going from a 5,000 square foot shop to a 60,000 square foot shop, and digging your roots into a company that can't survive without you. And that's a good place to be.
Heck yeah.
100%.
Little bit of advice right there. Thank you guys, man. I love working with you guys. Love you guys.
Same here.
Yeah, you guys are all right too.
All right. Boom. We're out.
Boom.
Peace.